the lines, I told you that we had a full show. Yes, this is possibly maybe one of the rare times, if not the second time we've had three guests in the 2 hours. And we've had to divide it by 45 minutes each. Try to give you the best, and I hope you've enjoyed it so far. My last but not least guest is somebody who I know you were all very excited that I was on the show. I was getting questions. Even after she left, you were all still sending me messages. Who was that? What's her handle? This, that, and whatever. Well, she's Nigerian. She's black. She's British. She's an author. She's a director. She's a public speaker. And yes, you could say she's a regular loudmouth like yours truly. Her name is Kelechi Okafor. Kelechi, thank you for joining us. She's joining from the UK. She just got back from Grenada. Isn't that so?
Yeah, I just got back from Grenada. Thank you for having me once again.
Thank you for
this
joining
time over
us.
the internet.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for joining us. So before you went to Grenada, there was all these race riots in the UK, and I know you made lots of comments about it, and I know that one of your passion in the UK is to address inequality, segregation, and the way black people are treated generally in the UK, and the conversation, the narrative, the finger pointing, the selective response. First and foremost, let me just start. When you saw the beginning of the race riots, which started as a result of, well, they claim it's as a result, false news about the killings of those three young girls in Southport. What were your thoughts when you saw the riots kick off? What were your first thoughts?
I think the first thing we want to do is think about how we use language, right? And so one thing I had to move away from is even calling them race riots, because that would insinuate that it's a two-sided thing, similar to how we talk about even like, oh, the Israel-Gaza war. No. That's a genocide. It's the power imbalance is different. This is a racist riot, right? Something that has been brought about by white racists in the UK. And for me, I'm not shocked. I think that all of this is happening right on time. Why? Because since Queen Elizabeth went to hell, I knew that what would happen with Britain would be that Britain would start having an identity crisis. Through Queen Elizabeth, she stood as like an icon for what Britain used to be, or how Britain was seen by the rest of the world, even if it wasn't truly that behind the scenes, behind the publicity campaign. And so now the average white British working class person is being used as a tool for white elitist, narratives and white elitist I would say like what they're invested in, their investments. It's not them that go to war when these things happen. They send the white working class. They send the working class to do it. And so if we're talking about trickle down effects, it was bound to happen. If you restrict food and you restrict employment, you restrict people's quality of living, and then you tell them that the reason that that's happened it isn't because we've got a monarchy that's useless and doesn't need to be there and it's a parasite. You tell them that the reason that it's happening is because of immigration, is because of these people coming to your country. Also not telling them why these people ended up in your country in the first place. That means that they'll then find that there's a fire ignited within them, and they'll go and lash out horizontally instead of lashing out vertically.
Let's talk about why these people, as you said, end up in the country, in the UK, in Britain. Why do you think immigration, migration, and we're not going to call it illegal immigration anymore, it's irregular immigration rather than illegal? And I had to learn that, from a guest that I had two guests 2 episodes ago, who said there is no such thing as illegal migration. It is irregular migration. So talk to us about what you said, how and why these people end up in the UK in the first place.
Definitely. I think that first and foremost, it's because of the lack of education that the average British person has. And, that is by design. They are not taught their history. They're not taught the expanse of their history and what the role that they've played throughout the world and the destabilization of global governments. Like, they're not taught those things. So they have no recollection or a kind of knowledge of what it means to be Great Britain. They don't know that. They don't know that when you talk about Great Britain or you talk about the British Empire, they said the sun never sets on the British Empire and the blood never dries. There was so much blood that was spilled. When we think about the documents that were signed in terms of which European country owns what. They literally met up, decided, and started drawing lines across the continent and said, this is mine and this is yours. For that reason, borders are imaginative, and they're imagined by the white supremacist higher ups. These borders are not real. And language plays such a role in how we think about these things, just like you said about irregular migration. But let's think about it further. There are people in Nigeria right now. What do you lot call them? You call them expats. They're expats. But if I was to do the same thing in their country, go to another country and to go and work there, I would be a migrant. I'm not an expat. So it's the language that's used in order to justify people coming to another country and being able to economically thrive there. And people are, it was said that we are here because you were there. If Britain hadn't gone on to colonize so much of the world and destabilize and rob so many places of their resources, those very same people from those countries generations later would not be seeking solace on British Isles. Like, if we're really keeping it buck, how many days of sun does Britain get? Britain is not cute like that on a climate level, on a geographical level, for anybody to be leaving their lands to say, you know where I really want to go? Yeah, Britain. Right? The reason that they'll come here is because they followed the money, they followed their artifacts, they followed their livelihoods, their resources, they followed it to this land. And because the average British person doesn't know that, they just think, oh no, why are they arriving? They're arriving because you're destroying, their countries are being destroyed in your name.
Right. Now, given that you say the average Brit doesn't know this history, would you agree that the British people, the ordinary British people, have a right to be afraid of being overwhelmed by migrants?
I think that they have a right to be fearful of the rhetoric that they're being indoctrinated with. What they're talking about in terms of the actual quote unquote migrants that are coming in, that is a fallacy. It's not migrants that's affecting the economy. And it's not people who are seeking a place to live or that are they're not the problem. The problem is that the money is being distributed in a very disgusting way. The money doesn't make it beyond the the 1%. The money doesn't make it beyond the government and their lobbyists. It doesn't make it beyond there. So they're there like saying that they are starving. When it comes to winter, they won't be able to put their heating on. They're thinking about all of these things. And in the same vein, they will go and beat up a black man in Manchester whilst shouting, God save the king. Like, there is a cognitive dissonance taking place, and that is not an accident. That is by design. Like, I keep stressing that it is by design. They are meant to feel this way. And I feel like when we are having these conversations, it is important, as you say, to humanize the people who are here, but also not to infantilize them. Because when it comes down to when they need to book their flights to go to the different places, when the different countries, when the World Cup is on or when the Euros are on, they know how to pull their T-shirts over their beer bellies and get themselves on the plane. But then you tell them to go and look for the information about how Britain came to be what it is and why are these people coming here? Because for me, I live like in Bermondsey, South London. If I saw an influx of people suddenly, I'd be like, wait, what's going on? Like, how did they end up here? Where's the funnel? I would try and figure it out, but they're, again, not encouraged to think.
We are streaming live on YouTube, Nigeria Info 99.3. Sorry, that was Kelechi that had that effect on me. That's the kind of effect she has on me. We are streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube, Nigeria Info 99.3 FM. You can listen to us. We're also on Twitter and on Instagram, Nigeria Info FM Lagos. Now, I need to take a breath whenever I'm talking to you. I really do. Let's talk about Keir Starmer.
Oh.
Keir Starmer, who must just become the new the UK Prime Minister. Right? Did you vote for him?
No.
Why not?
I knew that it was all going to go their way anyway, so it was fine. Okay. There was no need for me to. I knew that that's the way it was going to go, regardless.
Okay, we're in the UK right now. We're in that space where there is literally a rise of the far right, who now seem to have representatives at the parliament by the name of Nigel Farage, who had failed as UKIP, who had failed at Brexit, but was now voted in to be in the parliament. And then you have a Labour Party, who are now being accused of being dictatorial, of having sort of, cracking a sledgehammer with a nut. Keir Starmer's response to the riots was immediately put them in jail, put them in front of the courts, give them sentences. This is the only way to deal with it. The same Keir Starmer also has been very hard on Muslim British MPs prior to him being elected in a way to be elected. Given the Britain that we're in right now, I'm going to put you in a difficult position. Who would you rather have, a Keir Starmer or a Nigel Farage?
I'll have a Keir Starmer. I'll have a Keir Starmer because there is nothing more dangerous in life than stupidity, right? And Nigel Farage is an incredibly stupid man, and he is the perfect physical embodiment of all that the average ignorant British public stand for. He's a failure. Britain as a whole is a failure. It's a failed project, and he embodies that perfectly, which is why they want to be represented by him. And you don't want to give a lot of power to people who are stupid, because what they'll do with it won't be something that is beneficial to all. That's not to say that Keir Starmer is especially smart, but he knows he's been playing the game for a really, really long time. If you look at his CV, his track record, how he has moved even in the Caribbean islands, as well as supporting Stephen Lawrence's family, Stephen Lawrence, who was killed by white racists in the night, white racists in the 90s. He was part of that whole thing to kind of find justice for the Lawrence family. So he's navigated this in a way that makes it, you could see that there is some things that he can do. But the moment I saw that the leader of the Labour Party was going to be a Sir Keir Starmer, I said that goes against like the unionist, socialist, foundations of what the Labour Party is meant to stand for. But again, when people are in a furor, and in a frenzy, they just buy into anything. So you're asking me to choose the lesser of two evils. So in order to play the game, I will say Keir, but in my ideal world, it wouldn't be any of them. It would actually be me, because I feel like we need me in government. There are certain things that it doesn't have to be the way that it is. We're living in the fever dream, in a white supremacist fever dream. We're living in a world, or in a reality, a constructed reality that's been dreamt up by white supremacist eugenicists like men. Like, they've created this, and we are participating in it, and all it takes is for us to decide that we're going to wake up and that we don't want to do it anymore. Okay,
but here's the thing. You say he's an idiot. An idiot couldn't possibly get elected to parliament. Who? What, you said Nigel Farage, right?
What? My sister of Lagos. What do you mean an idiot cannot be elected into parliament? Boris Johnson is right there. Kwasi Kwarteng is right there. Liz Truss is right there. Like, there is in fact, the idiots are the ones that are preferred in government, because. So
why do you call them idiots? Why? Because my listeners are sending message saying, why is Kelechi calling these people who have been elected at some time or the other into office? Why is Kelechi calling them idiots? What qualifies them as idiots? Qualify that for us.
What have they done? What have they done? And also, for a while, in terms of the Conservatives, they weren't even elected like that. It was just like they were thrust upon us, especially like Liz Truss. Boris actually was voted in, wasn't he? If I remember correctly.
Boris was voted in, yes.
Yes. And people vote people in like that because they don't take their lives seriously. They vote in idiots because they don't take their lives seriously. They are made to believe that these people are somehow smarter than them. You hear it all the time. Okay. A celebrity or a sports person shares their view on something and people go, oh, keep it, focus on your sport. Keep your name, your mouth out of politics. You're made to believe that these people know more. But actually, if you look at it on paper, what have they done? They're useless.
Okay. I was watching an analysis the other day. I think he's by Loki, whom we've been trying to get on this show. So we hope you can connect us. You can actually connect us to him. Here's what his analysis. His analysis joins the rise of the far right, the funding of the far right, the likes of Tommy Robinson to Israel. What are your thoughts on that?
He's not wrong. Loki is a brilliant thinker, and he's been a brilliant thinker for a while, and he hasn't been afraid to say the things that people haven't wanted to say for so long, and he's been, attacked for it. Everything, like, obviously we're careful about our wording, but Zionist agendas are deeply embedded in everything. And this is why I mentioned earlier about the lobbyists, the people who are funding the government, the people who are funding Keir Starmer, and a large proportion of the members of parliament that are currently there. They have very big, deep ties to Israel, and they will do whatever is in their power to keep going. Like, didn't Keir Starmer, if I'm not mistaken, send more funding for Israel the other day? And these are things that are kind of pushed aside by the zeitgeist because we're focusing on other things, or we're being encouraged to focus on other things in the news cycle.
Okay, so if we believe that the likes of Tommy Robinson, who is well known to have been behind the riots, that Tommy Robinson is being funded by Israel, Zionist, Israeli government, etc., would that then mean that Israel is interfering in UK society?
But it has been for a very long time, and there are powers like deeply invested in Israel that have also been meddling for a long time. I think that what you're saying is perfect in that for a long time we have been lied to. The meddling didn't just start. It didn't just start. We're only just becoming more aware of it and finding a way to articulate ourselves with what we see. Because 5 years ago, let me and you try to have this conversation, and the wording that would have been used about the conversation that we're having would likely be anti-Semitic, because it was used as a way to conflate genuine critique of is the Israeli government and the Israeli regime. That those words were used, and Netanyahu actually said it. He was like, oh, if anybody ever says anything, just say, it's anti-Semitic that they're bringing it up. Using that conflation, because there are actual anti-Semitic things, but a critique of the Israeli regime 5 years ago would have had that name, or would have had that label put on you. And then what would you have done? Because other people weren't speaking up, and other people might not have been as educated at that time about what was going on.
We, up until the riots, we literally saw since October 7th last year, pretty much every other week, every other month, there were pro-Palestine march, literally, every other weekend. It was big. It got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you had the opposition, the pro-Israeli marches, which got bigger and bigger, which was led by the likes of Tommy Robinson. Now, here's the thing. Flags are waved. So you have the Palestinian flags being waved during the pro-Palestine marches. You have the Israeli flag being waved, and the St. George's flag being waved during the pro-Israel marches. During the riots, we saw Pakistani flags, Bangladeshi flags, we saw flags. Meanwhile, the Brits are saying, why is nobody actually waving the Union Jack? What is the problem with the Union Jack? Why is nobody waving it? Or should they not be waving that instead of waving every other flag, given that they are in Britain?
Because Scotland and Ireland don't like England like that. That's the simple answer. The Union Jack stands for that. That's why. And there's no black in the Union Jack, right? It wasn't, the whole premise of it was not nice. And I think that it's St. George's flag actually pertains to England. So if they want to wave that, they can wave that. But I just think we're getting to the point where Scottish people are wanting to make it clear. Whenever I make a video, Scottish people will show up in my comments and be like, hey, and by the way, yeah, we're not rocking with England either. Irish people come through. We're not rocking with England either. We're going to now have to have the difficult conversations about what it means to be a united kingdom. Even the idea that we are a kingdom, everything is so draconian, so antiquated. Britain's looking for a new identity, and as anybody would know who's explored psychotherapy, in order for a new self to emerge, the old self has to crumble, and we are witnessing the crumbling.
So the Union Jack, which has what? White, blue and red, correct?
Yes.
Those are the colors. Yes. What other color would need to then be included? If we are now reimagining Britain, we are recreating the Britain of multiculturalism. Would there need to be a change of color? Or
Yeah.
Could that flag still be rebirthed as one that belongs to everybody, or has it been hijacked by the far right?
What
The Union Jack,
or
yes. But the Union well, we know that the St. George's flag has been hijacked by the far right, but the
yes.
Union Jack, does it represent multicultural Britain? And if not, how? What color? What would need to happen to it for it to now represent multicultural Britain? The new Britain that you're talking about.
But these are the things, yeah. But these are the things. These are the trivial things that actually don't change much. You can go and change the color of the flag, and then black people are still being disproportionately incarcerated in the UK. Or you change the color of the flag, and black women are still 5 times more likely to die during childbirth in comparison to white women. We see this often, even with the mayor of London. You'll change street names, but you're not actually addressing the systemic and institutional factors that are bringing these things about. And so when you mentioned a multicultural Britain is not multicultural. Britain, that has been one of the biggest lies that has, again, been part of this marketing, this publicity campaign for Britain. Britain is multi-ethnic. There are many ethnicities that reside in Britain, but it is not multicultural. It's monocultural. It only ascribes to one culture. And if you don't abide by that, then you're out of here. Even if you think about the Life in Britain test that you have to do in terms of, to get your citizenship, those questions aren't about, what kind of jollof rice do you eat? Who makes better jollof rice, Ghana or Nigeria? They're not asking you that. They're asking you very obscure questions about Britain's history.
As if I may get personal, as mother to a mixed race child, how concerned are you about the Britain that we're seeing this moment, especially the future? Because I'll tell you, when those riots were on, I started calling my son, my nieces, everybody. I was calling my friends to say, tell the kids to stay home. This is crazy. This is insane. We don't know. They could, young people, they walk out and they can just walk into them. They don't look left or right. They're all on their phones, etc., etc. But as a relatively new mom, how concerned are you for the Britain that we're seeing, for your child rather, about the Britain that we're seeing right now? And if that Britain doesn't change, what fears do you harbor in your soul for your child?
That's so interesting that you say that, because funnily enough, I guess you'd be the right person to talk about it with, because I don't tend to talk about my personal life, right? But it is important in this situation to bring it up. And as mother to a mixed race boy, it's been a very scary time, and it's been a time of having conversations with his dad, who's white Polish, having a conversation with his dad because he, usually his dad will like pick him up on a bicycle. He's got a seat at the back of the bicycle, and they go around, they're cycling around London, having a great time. And on the days that I knew that the riots were going to happen in London, or they were planned to happen in London, and we saw them kicking off all around the UK, I said, do not just be out and about with this boy. Anyhow, I know that he would lay his life down to protect his son, but it's the fact that there's two of you, and one's a mini-me, right? So you can't afford to have that. And luckily, he's a switched-on guy, so he was just like, okay, got it, and he started moving differently as to how they go about doing what they're, going about their daily activities and stuff when he would pick him up. But these are things that I think this is a conversation that people who have been or are in interracial relationships, they need to very much get involved with, especially Black people, because obviously different races can be in these relationships. I can only speak to the Black community. That's what I think anyway. And I feel like Black men, Black women, your white partner specifically needs to be on job. This is the time where, before you lot were saying, oh, we don't see color and love can conquer everything, get your love to work then. Get your love to work, because now you can't, because I find that oftentimes I've observed other interracial relationships, and I've seen that some people enter into them as a way to hide from the realities of what their life is like as a Black person, and they think that they can be absorbed by this person's whiteness, and you cannot be insulated, you cannot be protected by their whiteness. So you have to do the work. And white people who are with Black people, you loved harping on before about, I love them. Part of love sometimes means sacrifice. You have to be the body that's out there doing the work, that's pushing back against this. You should be the one that runs the protest. This is the time for you to put that relationship to the test that you said you were in, because you will do this and you do that. This is the time to do it.
Okay. I can take 1 or 2 calls if you're quick, and you have to remember the rules. Your name, where you're calling from, and your question, not comment, your question. 020127709993, 020146579190. WhatsApp is 08959975805. If you are quick, I can take one, perhaps two questions and put them to my guest, Kelechi Okafor, who has been on fire, as usual. We've talked. Kelechi, let me talk to you about something. You're Nigerian. You always say, I'm Nigerian. I think you're even Nigerian first before you're British, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So before I answer this call, I want you to write this question down and then I'll answer this call.
Okay.
Nigerians are moving to the UK. When can the Brits say enough is enough, really? I want you to think about that, and I'm going to answer this call. Hello?
Okay. Yeah, good evening, Sugi.
Good evening. Your name, where you're calling from, and your question, please. I only have 3 minutes.
And I'm calling you from Ekwe.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, before Rishi Sunak, I think it was Liz Truss, if I'm not mistaken. Some people believe that the British royal family are racist. You know, that Rishi Sunak should have come to the ends of affairs before. At that point, you know, but because he has Indian origin, you know, that was why he wasn't able to. But because everything got, since we are not working well, they have no option, you know, but they have to bring in Rishi Sunak. Was it true or not? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Did you hear that? Basically, what Emmanuel was saying was, prior to Rishi Sunak being appointed, the Prime Minister, it was Liz Truss. And it is well believed that if the Brits hadn't been so racist, it would have been Rishi before Liz. How true is that?
Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But as far as we're concerned, the royal family is, as far as I'm concerned, the royal family, the monarchy is racist. So
So that's the thing. You always campaign for the royal family to be disbanded,
abolished,
scrapped, abolished. That's the word. What would you put in their place?
Given
if I may complete that, given the amount of money they bring in for tourism for the UK.
They don't, and that's the biggest fallacy. They really, really don't.
How could you argue that?
But what we can argue is look at France. I'm not saying we should send the royal family to the guillotine, but what I'm saying is that look at France, people still visit the palaces. They still visit. People hardly see the royal family. You're saying that it's good for tourism. When people go to these palaces, they never see the royal family. So they can very well still go to the palaces and abolish the monarchy.
Okay. So back to Emmanuel. Kelechi, you always throw me off. I've literally got 2 minutes left. I asked you about Nigerians, right? At which point, because we have more and more Nigerians jackpying, as you know, and of course, given all the conflicts in the world, we have migration is going higher and higher and higher. At which point are the Brits allowed to say enough is enough?
They're never allowed. It's the short answer. They're never allowed. For the length of time that Britain colonized Nigeria, they are never, ever, and for all of the resources that they've taken and continue to take, and in terms of the, British Petroleum and the name that the company had before that. To justify slavery, to justify all of these things. Britain can never say it's enough because what's been done cannot be quantified. The lives lost cannot be quantified. So we'll keep coming until we're tired.
Kelechi Okafor, she's an author, she's a director, she's a public speaker. And I told you earlier, in the UK, some would say she's a loudmouth like yours truly. Kelechi, she's a friend, she's a family of the show. Thank you so, so much for being frank, as usual. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Thank you for being on Borderlines. Lagos, Nigeria, the UK, Israel, wherever you're joining us from, that's the end of another wonderful show. Three fiery guests on Borderlines this week. I'm out of here. My name is Ireti Bakare-Yusuf. Yvonne is here with the 6 o'clock news. Right on time. Bye.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.